Ayumu Aikawa was an ordinary boy until he was reincarnated as a zombie by a mysterious necromancer. While lucky might not be the best word for his situation, he's technically alive. Sort of. Although, Ayumu seems to attract the afterlife like a magnet, often in the most ridiculous and embarrassing ways imaginable. If you've ever watched Dumb Ways to Die, you've got a pretty good idea of his daily routine. Immortality might sound glamorous in theory, but Ayumu's misadventures would make anyone reconsider. A world full of monsters and vampires, there lived a guy named Ayumu Aikawa and his companion, Eucliwood. Aikawa, strolling to school on a beautiful day, found himself lost in deep thoughts about the mysteries of the universe. On his way back to school, he had a fateful encounter with a cat in front of Truck Kun, looking for his next victim, and heroically leaped into action to help the cat. Well, I guess you could say he saved the cat, after being squashed like a potato, taking off the teacher's horrendous wig, showing his you-know-what to his classmates, and even having the cat screaming for his own life. Once back home, Aikawa announced his return to Eucliwood, communicating by scribbling on a notebook since her vocal cords were on vacation. Eucliwood commanded Aikawa to conjure up dinner, but Aikawa's mind was wandering into some questionable territory, filled with perverted daydreams while attempting to prepare their meal. Despite Eucliwood's desire to assist, her inability to physically do so made the situation seem as if your useless self was helping out. As they enjoyed dinner and engaging in conversation, Aikawa inquired about Eucliwood's day, only to discover that it mostly consisted of napping and eating. So basically, she's just like yourself. In the midst of their chat, Eucliwood broke his arm in attempting to touch her, basically saying shut up and eat. They delved into the story of how Eucliwood had resurrected Aikawa as a zombie after he fell victim to a dastardly culprit. As it turned out, Eucliwood is a necromancer hailing from the underworld, and she had miraculously brought Aikawa back to the realm of the living dead. Aikawa had been cohabitating with her for a solid month. That night, Aikawa received a phone call from his friend, who warned him about a serial killer lurking in their neighborhood. News reports confirmed that the killer had already claimed a victim. Determined to take revenge, thinking it could be the person who murdered him, Aikawa decided to embark on a city-wide search for the culprit. Aikawa decided to head towards the graveyard, where he finds it most peaceful. As he sat there, enjoying a refreshing beverage, a sudden commotion erupted, accompanied by billowing smoke. A cosplayer girl named Haruna emerged from the chaos, wielding a chainsaw that nearly murdered Aikawa. Aikawa, thinking she's the serial killer, yells at her. However, out of nowhere, a colossal bear monster appeared and attacked him. And well, Haruna couldn't really care less. Is it because he's a zombie? Well, no, she doesn't know that yet. It's because she loses magical girl points if someone dies. Thinking Aikawa is already done for. I just cannot make this up. She literally tells him to shut up, go to the light and die, and just casually slices Aikawa and the bear in half.
Shut up and go into the light! To the light!
Haruna, happy that her job is finished, like she ain't just cut a whole person in half, is surprised when she hears Aikawa speaking, revealing that he's a zombie. Haruna introduces herself, saying that she's a genius magical girl. But Aikawa calls her an idiot, considering if he was human, she would have killed him, but no biggie. As Haruna tries to erase his memories, Aikawa accidentally takes her magical powers, making her powerless. Together, they made their way back home, where they shared a meal with Eucliwood. Haruna, still angry over losing her magical powers, vented her frustrations at Aikawa. Meanwhile, Aikawa discovered his own latent abilities, and Haruna decided to stick around until her magical predicament was resolved. Haruna, borrowing his phone, makes a call to her boss, who lives in a different dimension, and explains her situation. Meanwhile, the only thing Aikawa is worried about is, how much will that phone call cost? Under the cloak of night, a mysterious man began tailing Haruna, tracing her every step back to Aikawa's humble abode. The following morning, Aikawa pondered his next move while contemplating the complexities of living with two eccentric girls. Just as he was deep in thought, his friend arrived and proposed a friendly game session at Aikawa's place. Aikawa promptly declined, considering the potential complications of such a situation. Suddenly, a man approached Aikawa, coming closer as if he was our creepy uncle when we were younger. However, Haruna materialized at the classroom window, brandishing her woodcutter, and the menacing student transformed into a gargantuan crayfish monster. What the heck are we even looking at? Anyways, Haruna attempted to unleash her supermassive form, but due to Aikawa accidentally taking her magic, it failed miserably, leaving her disrobed and terrified. The crayfish monster lunged at her, but Aikawa bravely stepped in with mighty punches, inadvertently breaking his own arm along the way. In a stroke of genius, Haruna suggested utilizing mistletoe, and Aikawa began chanting alongside her. The result was nothing short of astounding. Aikawa transformed into a magical girl. The monster, in a desperate attempt to save face, hurled insults at Aikawa, labeling him a pervert. Unfazed, Aikawa unleashed a spectacular attack, ultimately defeating the crayfish menace. To make matters even worse, the other students who witnessed the showdown mistook Aikawa for a deranged pervert and snapped pictures of him. Haruna reassured Aikawa that he should take pride in his newfound role as a magical girl, but Aikawa couldn't help shedding tears as a zombie who said life as an undead hero would be easy, right? Aikawa, reflecting on his past, remembers how he stumbled upon Euclid in quite a peculiar way. You see, Aikawa had an unfortunate encounter with a murderer, resulting in his death. But Euclid swooped in and brought him back to life. The next morning, Aikawa found himself having a normal day at school, mostly because he used his musou shoujo magic to erase the students' memories, and hopes he never has to do that again. During lunchtime, Aikawa discovered a delightful surprise in his lunchbox, courtesy of Haruna, a batch of fried eggs, with a side of eggs, and of course for dessert, fried eggs. Aikawa adjusted to the egg-filled reality and found them surprisingly tasty. To his delight, his friends also relished the eggs, proclaiming them to be downright delicious. Returning home, Aikawa expressed his gratitude to Haruna, asking her to put something else in it other than eggs. Of course though, that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. And so, they sat down for dinner, savoring the mouth-watering meat truffles that Aikawa had whipped up. Little did they know, the delectable feast was also aiding Haruna in her quest to restore her magical abilities. Euclid, with her quiet demeanor, complimented Aikawa on his skillful rice preparation. Well, at least in his imagination she did. But just as dinner was in full swing, an unexpected visitor crashed the party. A girl named Seraphim boldly joined the table, indulging in the meal without even offering a proper introduction. Turns out, she is a vampire ninja with a knack for being mysterious. She states that she needs Euclid to come to the ninja village with her. However, Aikawa attempts to whisk her away by telling her that he's her guardian, but is quickly corrected by being called her servant. Seraphim, thinking that he isn't worthy enough to even be her servant, challenges him to a fight. To settle their differences, the trio ventured to the graveyard, so much for the dead to rest in peace when someone is having a fight 24/7. Seraphim, determined to eliminate Euclid, unleashed a barrage of attacks, catching Aikawa off guard with a surprise strike that left him nursing an injury. Aikawa valiantly defended himself, although he did lose a hand in the process. But never fear, our quick-witted hero flung his severed hand as a weapon, proving that he's got some serious aim. Surprised by Aikawa's resourcefulness, Seraphim admitted defeat and decided to take her leave. However, by leave, she meant just leaving the battlefield and going back to his house, and declaring that she will be Aikawa's servant instead. Aikawa can't help but wander into some amusing thoughts about what having Seraphim as his servant could entail, suggesting that she addresses him as Oni-chan. But Seraphim shut down his proposal, referring to him as a damn insect that doesn't even deserve to be on the same planet as her. As night fell, Euclid serenely enjoyed a cup of tea in the backyard, while Aikawa lounged on her bed contemplating life, or, well, undead life. Suddenly, Seraphim appeared, descending from the ceiling like a true ninja, and struck up a conversation about Euclid's guarded heart and introverted nature. Aikawa recognized these traits as Euclid's true personality, and Seraphim, trusting her girly heart, believes something happened that makes her like this. Lost in thought, Aikawa reminisced about the time he first met Euclid while sitting in front of a market one night. He attempted to charm her with a pickup line involving UFOs, which, let's just say, didn't quite hit the mark. To salvage the situation, Aikawa broke into an impromptu dance, resulting in a rather painful hand injury. Surprisingly, Euclid found the dance intriguing but advised Aikawa to never attempt it again, because it looked weird. From that moment on, they engaged in a heartfelt conversation, with Euclid responding through her trusty notebook. As Aikawa made his way home, he heard a girl screaming and decided to rush in to help her, only to end up with a sword piercing his stomach, bringing him face to face with death. However, Aikawa woke up to find Euclid by his side, revealing the truth about his untimely demise and subsequent resurrection as a zombie. The breakfast table became a meeting ground for our quirky crew, with Seraphim casually mentioning that the vampire ninja villages had been locked in a century-long war. Aikawa, sharing some of his personal struggles, but basically hating his guts, didn't want any sympathy from a disgusting, worthless zombie. Naturally, a heated argument erupted between Aikawa and Haruna over the contents of his lunchbox for school. Haruna, in her frustration, liberally throwing around the word die, which resulted in a swift slap from Euclid, writing that death shouldn't be taken lightly. Haruna, in an attempt to apologize, gives her leftovers to her and retreats to her bed, taking note of the gloomy, rainy weather outside. The next morning brings Haruna jolting awake from a dream involving a treacherous pudding slicing incident, only to get herself beat up by her own alarm. Meanwhile, Aikawa rises to face reality yet again of a zombie. They both gather around for a delightful breakfast, savoring their beloved fried eggs. Aikawa proudly displays the gifts he received from his well-meaning parents, including a set of mismatched socks and a world's best zombie coffee mug. After breakfast, Aikawa ventures off to school, armed with an umbrella as his trusty sun-shielding companion. His friend Orito, in his endless pursuit of impressing the ladies, shamelessly attempts to convince them to join him for a bowling outing, only to be met with repulsed glares and gross comments like yourself. In a desperate attempt to save his sanity, he says that he's too good-looking for the girls, and Orito boldly invites Aikawa along for the ride. As the girls back home indulge in a game for the last cup of pudding. As the games continue, they decide to order sushi for lunch, with of course using Aikawa's wallet. Meanwhile, Aikawa accompanies Orito on a trip to purchase a mask, where Orito makes fun of him, calling him a kid for purchasing a mask, and no girl would ever buy a mask like that, as if it isn't already a bunch of girls with masks behind him. This is exactly why his ugly self got rejected by every girl in the school. And to make the matters worse, Orito begins claiming that he needs a real woman, and girls in uniform aren't enough for him.
FBI, open up!
Aikawa, being the best friend he can be, slowly dies silently, begging God to help him. As fate would have it, Aikawa suddenly spots a surprising sight: Euclid, Haruna, and Seraphim among the bowlers. Orito's mind, forever entrenched in perverted thoughts, envisions the girls frolicking in bikinis, much to Aikawa's chagrin. Worried about being spotted, Aikawa hastily concocts an excuse to escape to the washroom, although he didn't really get far, since Orito pointed out that he had already gone to the restroom, hiding his face away, hoping to God nobody notices him. But it was already too late, considering Haruna was calling his name the entire time. Orito, being the idiot he is, begins thinking that Haruna is talking to him, and it's his time to shine, only to be quickly dumbfounded after she made it clear. Aikawa, with his mask on, claims to be masked. Aikawa attempting to hide his identity, Seraphim calls him a disgusting pervert, but still finds him less creepy with the mask on. Orito ponders how does he knows these girls, only to find out that they stay in his house. And well, let's just say Aikawa wasn't the one that died this time. Mentally, physically, and well, any other way you're probably thinking. Aikawa affirms him if that 1 in a million chance he did get lucky in the way he is thinking, they would turn him into a literal sandbag. To settle his crisis, he decides to challenge Aikawa to a bowling match. If he wins, he gets to stay in Aikawa's home, and while he is a zombie, the results were kinda expected. On their journey homeward, Orito extends an unexpected invitation to Aikawa, a visit to the hospital, where a girl who survived the serial killer attack is recovering. Aikawa, curious as ever, asks the girl if she managed to see the culprit. She describes him as having beautiful eyes, a youthful appearance, and wearing gauntlets. This description immediately brings Euclid to Aikawa's mind, leaving him in a state of confusion. Meanwhile, back at home, Euclid is casually enjoying the last cup of pudding, blissfully unaware of the chaos unfolding around her. The other girls, determined to get their hands on that last cup, are still fighting amongst themselves, completely unaware that Euclid is already savoring its delicious contents. At the night, while Haruna and Seraphim are having a blast in the kitchen preparing dinner, it turns out Seraphim decided to try cooking for the first time. Let's just say her dish wasn't a masterpiece, it was more like a volcanic eruption that turned the soup into molten lava. Despite the culinary catastrophe, she had poor Aikawa be the taste tester, which was somehow enough to make a zombie see the light of God. When Aikawa finally regains consciousness, he takes charge and orders pizza for everyone, because, let's face it, after that soup, they deserve it. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos in the kitchen, Haruna makes a call to her teacher, telling her that the mission is going great, even though she knows dang well she hasn't done anything. Suddenly, the peaceful moments are shattered by the ringing of the doorbell, and a visitor named Kerberos Wansard, who introduces himself as the guardian of the underworld. It turns out Aikawa has already been to the underworld, but since he was revived, he managed to escape, and Kerberos is here to whisk him back. But before anyone can comprehend what's happening, Kerberos launches into an attack on Aikawa, leaving everyone stunned. Euclid steps in to save the day, revealing her incredible healing powers. Kerberos, realizing that Euclid, also known as Master Hellscythe, must have meant that she revived him herself, but she just forgot to write off Aikawa's death as a mistake to the other world. Realizing his mistake, Kerberos decides to depart and offers to help take the souls being currently murdered at this moment. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Aikawa decides to join forces with Kerberos. As they delve deeper into the investigation, they uncover a chilling truth: souls aren't making it to the underworld anymore. Instead, they're being sacrificed to a mysterious figure known as the King of the Night. However, before they could realize, the figure suddenly stabs them both, with Kerberos jumping in front of Aikawa in an attempt to save his life. In the aftermath of a brutal encounter, Aikawa comes home, explaining the recent events to Eucliwood. Aikawa tells Eucliwood that Kerberos died protecting him, even though Aikawa is a zombie. Aikawa apologizes to Eucliwood because that must have hurt back then. She tells him that it's fine since she is used to it. He asks if the reason that made her suppress her emotions, replying that when affected by strong magic powers, the wavering becomes larger and fiercer. She thinks of herself as unstable and insecure. The movement of her heart disrupts her magic power, and if that interferes with the thread of fate, it will change reality. That is why she must not allow herself to show her emotions. Suddenly, Aikawa remembers how Eucliwood has stopped him from doing something interesting which may force her to show some emotions. She hands over another note which explains that the reason why she doesn't speak is that her words would be filled with magic. That is why she has restrained herself from speaking. Her words are a burden. She doesn't even know when or what words will be transformed into power. That is why she must not allow herself to utter a single word. She can't speak even little words because if she does, she feels extreme pain in her head, and she doesn't want it to happen anymore. Magic flows in her veins, and her heart holds an enormous amount of magic power. Aikawa asks her about her armor, and Eucliwood replies that the gauntlets and plate armor were for sealing her magic, and her powers had nothing to do with her will. Even if she dies, her magic power will still be activated. Eucliwood asks Aikawa while crying silently if he hates her now because if her emotions were triggered, Aikawa's fate would be the one most affected. Eucliwood continues that if knew he had a monster by his side, he would hate her. Aikawa yells at her that he doesn't see any monster but a kind girl sitting in front of him. Eucliwood asks if it's alright for her to stay with him. Taking the notepad, he writes that he wants her to stay with him, no matter what price he has to pay. This reveals the depth of Eucliwood's struggle with her own emotions and powers, leaving Aikawa determined to find a way to help her. But as fate would have it, their peaceful moment is shattered by the appearance of a monstrous threat, a AAA-class Megalo hovering ominously above the city. Aikawa leaps into action, transforming into a magical girl once again with Seraphim by his side. Of course, Seraphim can't resist calling him an ugly pervert in the heat of battle. In a battle of epic proportions, they face off against the gargantuan monster, with Haruna and Seraphim pulling out all the stops to protect the city. With teamwork and sheer determination, Aikawa and his allies emerge victorious, defeating the monstrous threat and saving the day once again. And as the dust settles, they can't help but wonder what other adventures await them in this crazy, supernatural world they call home. After a fun-filled day together, Haruna and Seraphim share a cozy moment, but their bonding takes an unexpected turn when Seraphim reveals her vampire side by indulging in a little bloodsucking from Haruna. Haruna tries to reclaim her lost magic powers but ends up in a rather compromising situation, naked and vulnerable. Just when things couldn't get any more awkward, Aikawa barges in and gets an eyeful, earning himself a swift scolding and eviction from the room for being an erotic bastard. Later, as the girls relax in the bath, Aikawa takes on the less glamorous task of dishwashing. His piece is interrupted by a call from Dai, Haruna's teacher, who mistakenly informs Aikawa about Haruna's misguided quest for an artifact called Kyotafu. Aikawa promises to handle it and tries to relay the message to Haruna, who's too preoccupied with ice cream to pay attention. Just as Aikawa's trying to wrap his head around one call, another comes in, this time from Kyoyuko, who's just been discharged from the hospital. They arrange to meet up, and Aikawa finds himself face to face with Kyoyuko at a quaint telephone booth. The next day, Aikawa bides his time in school until the sun sets, then heads to the graveyard after dinner with Eucliwood. Despite her suggestion to stay, Aikawa leaves to meet Kyoyuko, who isn't who she's claimed to be and has the ability to manipulate memories. Transforming into her true form as a magical girl, she launches a vicious attack on Aikawa, freezing him in place with her magical barrier. Just when all hope seems lost, the cavalry arrives in the form of Haruna and Seraphim, ready to throw down. Despite initial confusion from Haruna, they quickly get into battle mode, with Seraphim tapping into a newfound power, the swallow technique. But Kyoyuko proves to be a formidable foe, revealing her dark secret of killing to achieve eternal life. In a dramatic showdown, Aikawa transforms into a magical girl, albeit with a comically perverted twist, and the battle intensifies. Despite Kyoyuko's relentless assault, Aikawa manages to turn the tables with his ultimate powers and, well, unconventional tactics. But just when victory seems within grasp, Kyoyuko springs back to life, ready for round 2. As the treacherous chick Kyoyuto launched her attack on Aikawa and his comrades, who clearly weren't fans of the despicable Ayumu, her efforts were swiftly nullified when the silent demoness arrived on the battlefield. Kyoyuto couldn't help but praise Eucliwood's aura, admitting she could sense Eucliwood's magical power even from a distance. Amidst laughter, Kyoyuto continued her assault on Eucliwood, but the necromancer effortlessly deflected her attacks without so much as a flinch. Finally, Euclid had had enough. She reached for the pink chainsaw lying on the ground and transformed into the ultimate magical girl herself. It was at this moment that Ayumu, the dim-witted protagonist, had a sudden flashback to when Haruna lost both her powers and her clothes. He realized that the same force that stripped Haruna of her abilities and attracted the Megalos was none other than Euclid, the core of everything, the world's greatest and most powerful spiral of magic. Taking a step forward, Euclid confronted Kyoudo, who scoffed at Euclid's decision to meddle in such affairs, accusing her of obsessing over a single boring man in a boring town. But Kyoudo's insults fell on deaf ears as Euclid, warning Ayumu and the others not to interfere, prepared to face her adversary. With a graceful move, Euclid positioned herself at a distance from Kyoudo, ready to engage. Kyoudo unleashed her full potential, amplifying her attacks 500 times over, only to find herself facing the formidable necromancer, whose powers were unmatched. With each exertion, Kyoudo's arms suffered, her skin ripping from the strain, leaving her exhausted and coughing blood. Euclid, with a calm demeanor, simply told her to move her weak, useless ass along. But Kyoudo pressed on, her attacks relentless. However, her resilience was no match for Euclid's power. With a single word, die, Euclid brought Kyoudo to her knees, turning the tree behind her to dust in the process. Despite Euclid's repeated attempts to end the battle, Kyoudo refused to yield, her laughter echoing in defiance. Eventually, Kyoudo, driven to desperation, launched a suicide attack on Euclid, leaving her momentarily incapacitated as she shifted her focus to Ayumu, the bumbling fool she wished to punish. However, Haruna, seizing the opportunity, grabbed the chainsaw and unleashed her fury upon Kyoudo, with Seraphim and the zombified Aikawa joining the fray. Yet, despite their efforts, Kyoudo proved resilient, her body healing even as they inflicted damage upon her. Ayumu, seizing the chainsaw from Haruna, transformed into a magical girl himself, determined to understand Euclid's struggles. With each strike, he felt the weight of Kyoudo's malice, but he refused to relent. Finally, with Kyoudo on her last life, Ayumu, the useless wimp, spared her useless self, rendering her unconscious. As they regrouped, another figure appeared, Dai-sensei, who warned Aikawa of the consequences had Kyoudo perished. But before they could fully comprehend the situation, Kyoudo, under the control of a dark spirit, vanished, leaving them to ponder the mysteries of their world. Returning home, Aikawa found himself contemplating the bizarre events while enjoying rice cakes with Euclid, Seraphim, and Haruna, whose bickering over cooking provided a humorous backdrop. Reflecting on their journey, Aikawa questioned Euclid about her past creations of zombies, to which she replied with a hint of uncertainty, recalling a former zombie consumed by malice. As they settled into their peculiar existence, Aikawa couldn't help but wonder if Euclid truly enjoyed their current lifestyle. Her response, a simple, "I don't dislike it." And with that, the eccentric adventures of Aikawa and his companions continued. Haruna found herself in a futile endeavor attempting to explain the intricacies of spiral galaxies to the dense airhead Aikawa, while Sira and Euclid found entertainment in melodramas on TV. Aikawa, originally intending to study math, regretted initiating the conversation that led to Haruna's cosmic lecture. But Euclid, ever the genius, effortlessly solved all the math problems in Aikawa's notebook with a single stroke of her pen, leaving Haruna to interpret the equations in her own unique animal language. The next day, as Aikawa faced his exam, he felt confident, having been tutored by the genius magical girl. However, his focus was disrupted when he spotted Haruna suctioned to the window, informing him of a Megalos appearance. Despite the distraction, Aikawa remained determined to excel in his exam, unwilling to add another failure to his record. After the exams, Aikawa sought out Haruna and the Megalo, skulking in the shadows to maintain an air of mystery. But his plans were interrupted by a call from Dai-sensei, who entrusted him with a task to hide something from Haruna. As the Megalo threatened Haruna, Aikawa intervened, transforming into a magical girl and wielding his chainsaw. However, Aikawa's heroics were short-lived as he was overwhelmed by a group of jellyfish Megalos. The boss jellyfish, mistaking Aikawa for a cute magical girl, attempted to take advantage but recoiled in disgust upon discovering Aikawa's true nature. As the battle ensued, a mysterious figure named Maelstrom appeared, wielding some motherfricking ramen noodles as a fricking weapon. Sira and Aikawa found themselves in Maelstrom's base, where Aikawa received a lecture on the art of defeating Megalos with motherfricking useless ramen. Meanwhile, Sira took the opportunity for some alone time with Aikawa, revealing Maelstrom's polite demeanor towards him due to an accidental kiss, which in vampire ninja culture symbolized marriage. Back at home, as preparations for Christmas were underway, Aikawa stumbled upon a room where Sira, Haruna, and Euclid were cosplaying in eclectic outfits. The following day, a mysterious girl delivered a parcel from Dai-sensei, which turned out to be an erotic glass. Maelstrom appeared once more, offering Aikawa something to eat and inadvertently revealing her reluctant status as Aikawa's husband in vampire ninja tradition. Just when Aikawa thought things couldn't get any stranger, Orita appeared, recognizing Maelstrom as Yoshida Tominori from a neighboring class. Amidst the chaos, Aikawa found himself in another absurd situation, reconsidering if being alive is even worth it. The day began with Aikawa, the careless and disgusting individual he was, nearly losing the erotic glasses due to his negligence. When the glasses finally made it to Sira, she wasted no time in putting them on, much to Aikawa's dismay. He was promptly dubbed a crude and obscene insect, a title that brought him to tears of shame. Meanwhile, Haruna woke from an erotic dream involving Aikawa, which sent her rushing to his room in a frenzy, only to find him peacefully asleep. In a fit of rage, she pounced on him, unleashing a barrage of kicks and curses for his perceived perverted antics. Honestly, it was a moment that perfectly encapsulated the frustration of the entire female population. At school, Aikawa found himself faced with Orita's request to share his lunch, while Mail sought the help of a girl from Aikawa's class, Kanami, whom she confessed to having fallen in love with useless Aikawa. Kanami, perplexed by Mail's sudden interest in Aikawa, urged her to embrace her femininity in an attempt to win his heart. The next day, Yoshida prepared lunch for Aikawa in a bid to impress him, while Sira received a mysterious message. Mail, pondering her next move to win Aikawa's affections, seized the opportunity to walk with him halfway home, despite Aikawa's protests about her insistence on being his wife. As they walked, Aikawa tried to explain to Mail that they couldn't be married, but her determination remained unwavering. Their encounter caught the attention of Haruna, who appeared wearing casual housewife attire, clearly displeased to see Aikawa with Mail. Despite Haruna's frustration, Aikawa invited her, along with Sira and Euclid, to accompany them to the mall. As they shopped, Mail fantasized about Aikawa, while Aikawa found himself drawn to Sira's antics, only to have his useless, disgusting eyeballs popped. After a meal at a restaurant, Haruna confronted Aikawa about kissing Mail, leaving Aikawa scrambling for an explanation. Their conversation was interrupted when Mail whisked Aikawa away to play games, resulting in an injury inflicted by Sira and Haruna's disdain for vampire ninja traditions. As Aikawa bought drinks, Haruna appeared out of nowhere, expressing her desire to kiss him, but since you know, this man's got 0% chance of getting any action, she assaulting him and storms off. Upon their return, they discovered that Euclid had disappeared, leaving them to wonder about the next bazaar. Sira's mind was racing with suspicions. Had someone surpassed her skills and snatched Euclid away without a trace? Meanwhile, she had skewered another mysterious figure tailing them since the shopping mall escapade. Finally, Sira spilled the beans. She'd been handed an order to off Euclid. Aikawa's brain struggled to compute this revelation. "What in the world are you blabbering about?" he blurted out. Wasn't Sira supposed to be the one to whisk Euclid back to the ninja village? Euclid, her weapon drawn, turned to the mysterious stalker. "Do you blame me?" she demanded. His response was laden with disappointment. He had believed in her. He wanted Euclid to come home with him, but she dismissed it as impossible. The tension thickened as he hinted at a past betrayal, and Euclid cut to the chase, demanding to know his intentions now. With a heavy heart, he confessed to being puzzled by her current company of idiotic friends. Sira then revealed the organization's nefarious plan to assassinate Euclid, linking it to her magical prowess and the recent string of Megalo attacks. Sira stressed she didn't want to harm Euclid but felt bound by the organization's orders. As Sira and Aikawa bickered, Haruna and Mail looked on, fretting. Aikawa, fed up with ninja codes, simply asked Sira if she truly intended to kill Euclid. Sira, emotionally wrought, vehemently denied it. Haruna intervened, urging them to focus on finding Euclid first. The killing could wait. In a surprising turn, Sira thanked Aikawa, acknowledging his role in swaying her from her mission. The tension peaked when a Ferris wheel threatened Aikawa, but miraculously, he emerged unscathed. However, the looming threat remained. Euclid's instability manifested as a colossal megalo descended upon Haruna. Despite their efforts, they couldn't free her, and Euclid pleaded with the mysterious man to spare Haruna. As Dai-sensei joined the fray, the situation escalated. Mail, under the influence of dark mist, unleashed chaos. Despite Dai-sensei's efforts, Mail couldn't be stopped, and they could only wait for her to power down or risk self-destruction. Aikawa, despite his shock, bravely approached Mail and ultimately saved her from the malfunctioning golem. As the chaos subsided, Mail, tearfully grateful, delivered a well-deserved punch to Aikawa. The mysterious man vanished in a puff of black mist after zapping Aikawa with a shocking parting gift. Eucliwood, realizing the danger she posed, left for their safety. Aikawa, overwhelmed by emotion, read Eucliwood's diary, shedding tears of regret. But Haruna, ever the motivator, wouldn't let him wallow in despair, reminding him that the natto was still sticking, never give up. And thus they returned home, Aikawa carrying the weight of Eucliwood's absence, but with a newfound determination fueled by friendship and fermented soybeans. It had been a few months since Eucliwood bid them farewell, and despite their relentless search, they were unable to locate her. Aikawa's alter ego was ready to throw in the towel, but Aikawa remained steadfast in his belief that there had to be a way. Meanwhile, Haruna was trying to navigate the intricacies of doing Aikawa's laundry, a task made all the more challenging by her frustration with his general uselessness. Their mundane routine was interrupted when they heard a commotion outside their room. Rushing out, they found Sira lying on the floor, barely conscious and injured. As Sira recounted being attacked by another vampire ninja from her clan for abandoning her mission to kill Eucliwood, the doorbell rang. Haruna, hopeful for a delivery of food, was disappointed when it turned out to be a useless violin instead. Sira, ever the critic, scoffed at Aikawa's ignorance of violins before grudgingly playing a tune for Haruna's sake. While Aikawa was out eating, he overheard a conversation about animals and their feelings, only to realize that one of the speakers was the same man who had been with Eucliwood before her disappearance, another zombie. Alerting Sira and Haruna, Aikawa cautioned against attacking him, claiming the man as his prey. However, their confrontation turned violent as the man attacked Aikawa with black mist, injuring him. Sira retaliated, but the man immobilized her, intending to use her as bait to lure Eucliwood. Just as the situation seemed dire, Mael and her friend Sarah's arrived to save the day. With their assistance, they managed to thwart the man's plans and send him fleeing. However, in the chaos, Haruna inadvertently glued Aikawa's legs together with wood adhesive. As they retreated home, Sira resolved to search for Eucliwood on her own, leaving Aikawa and Haruna to deal with their sticky situation. The next day, Mael informed Aikawa of the king's location, a secret she hadn't shared with anyone else. Aikawa relayed this information to Haruna, and they set out to confront the king. Meanwhile, Sira encountered Eucliwood outside their door, only to be stabbed by the king as Eucliwood watched passively. After Eucliwood healed Sira with her blood, Sira informed Aikawa and Haruna about Eucliwood's presence. Racing to the location provided by Mael, they found Eucliwood sitting on the ground, seemingly indifferent to the chaos around her. The king invited Haruna to join them for lunch, and as they conversed about immortality, Sarah's unexpectedly appeared. As the king seized Eucliwood and fled, Haruna found herself engulfed in black mist, with a time bomb ticking away on her head. In a desperate attempt to save Haruna, Aikawa grabbed the bomb and leaped out of the window, sacrificing his useless self to protect his friends. As he pondered Eucliwood's inexplicable reaction earlier, the bomb detonated in midair, leaving Aikawa grappling with the aftermath of his decision. Mael, Haruna, and Sirius have collected the blown-away parts of Aikawa and gathered them to reincarnate him. As the body gathers itself, Aikawa is still asleep. Haruna tries to kiss Aikawa, but Mael stops her, reminding her that she's Aikawa's lip-sworn wife. With no choice, Sirius steps in and tries to administer medicine to Aikawa, but to her surprise, she shoves secret poison instead of medicine into his mouth. Meanwhile, the king is with Eucliwood, discussing his death. Haruna is worried about Aikawa, who hasn't woken up yet. Aikawa wakes up in his consciousness, where Haruna and Sirius are mocking him for his weakness, claiming it's the reason why Eucliwood rejected him. Haruna starts drowning as they both move away. Desperate, Haruna calls Dai-sensei and begs her to visit. Blaming herself for Aikawa's condition, Dai-sensei casts a spell and sends her delusional ass to sleep. Aikawa is still in some place, on the brink of disappearing, when Haruna jumps in to save him from his hateful thoughts. Haruna punches Aikawa hard to bring him back to his senses, but Aikawa, being an idiot, won't understand without a good beating. Finally, Haruna gets emotional and pleads with him to return. Then, Haruna disappears and Aikawa wakes up. Saraswati arrives to give Sirius her attachments. Sirius enters the room to inform Haruna about a Megalo, which Aikawa has already sensed. Aikawa and Haruna head to the tower to find the king and Eucliwood waiting for them. Eucliwood asks Haruna via a paper plane note why it was peaceful in Aikawa's life without her. Aikawa interjects, stating it wasn't right without Eucliwood. Moving towards Eucliwood, Aikawa takes the paper she was making an airplane from, revealing that Eucliwood always caused problems for him. King joins the conversation, informing Aikawa that a Megalo has been called forth by Eucliwood. King always wanted to see Eucliwood's sorrowful face. Haruna, disgusted with King's fetish, calls him a perverted freak. King warns them that the city will be destroyed due to Aikawa's resistance. He tells Euclid to kill him quickly, but she refuses. Aikawa calls King pitiful as he understands nothing about Euclid. Ceres stands atop the tower, ready to play the violin because either Euclid's blood or the melody of vampires can save the city. As she starts playing, the ghosts vanishing from the huge sphinx face in the sky. King tells Aikawa that death is painful but better than living. He attacks Aikawa, who fights back, but won't lay a finger on King. The pink chainsaw starts shaking on its own as Aikawa heals. King cautions Euclid to witness the unintended repercussions of her altruistic actions. Sensing the fervor of the pink chainsaw, Haruna implores Aikawa to embrace his transformation. As the eager blade thirsts for blood, Aikawa and Haruna undergo their transformation as Ceres diligently continues her spirit exorcism. Ceres is taken aback as colossal Megalos manifest before her. Sarasvati and fellow ninjas unite with Ceres, forming a formidable alliance to banish the looming threat of the Megalos. Ceres' enchanting melody serves as a barrier against the aerial sphinx, while Aikawa and Haruna launch a relentless assault on King with their chainsaw, triggering a cataclysmic explosion. Haruna is forcefully expelled from the tower, while Aikawa reverts to his mundane attire. Aikawa and King engage in a fierce clash against the backdrop of shattering glass. In a revelation, King discloses his long-standing acquaintance with Euclid, predating Aikawa's acquaintance with her. Aikawa confides in King, admitting that despite their time together, he remains oblivious to Euclid's genuine smiles and the joy she radiates. In a passionate exchange about Euclid, Aikawa overwhelms King, expressing his emotions through action. Their confrontation halts abruptly when Euclid intervenes, showcasing her influence over Aikawa's behavior. After King regenerates, he implores Aikawa to understand the anguish of immortality and urges him not to hold resentment towards Euclid. However, Aikawa's response diverges from expectation, echoing the unconventional paths tread by Ceres and Haruna. In a poignant moment, Euclid steps forward, grasps King's hand, and, in an act of closure, brings his existence to an end. Meanwhile, Ceres triumphs over the Megalos, clearing the path for a new beginning. As Euclid fulfills King's final wish, she stands alone, embodying both strength and solitude. Aikawa yells at her to stay with him and never leave again. Euclid tells Aikawa he's being selfish, just like Haruna. Aikawa is taken aback when he hears Euclid speak for the first time. He finally hugs her. Euclid warns Aikawa that he will face many problems because of her, but Aikawa decides to take everything on at the cost of Euclid being with him. As they have a wholesome moment, Haruna falls from the sky wearing a Hawaiian dress, disrupting their special moment. Haruna explains she was on a trip around the world. She's also shocked to hear the cute voice of the necromancer. As they return home, Haruna tells Aikawa he's been invited to Yggdrasil. They start celebrating, thinking about swimming all day, but Ceres ruins Aikawa's moment, telling him it would be disgusting to let an undead, useless, disgusting insect to see her skin. Aikawa and his party, along with Dai-sensei, rush towards Yggdrasil. It took Haruna 999 lottery tickets before finally winning. The public is shocked to see Ceres' huge melons in a red bra. Haruna is also jealous of Ceres since she only has little barriers. Suddenly, Euclid shows up in a full swimsuit, casually floating around on a balloon. Haruna starts looking at Euclid's time barriers and tells Aikawa not to be the person who worries about melon sizes. But ironically, Haruna is the one worried about the size. As they start enjoying the indoor beach, Euclid floats around while Kanami takes her to play ball. Haruna joins them, and as they have fun, Ceres keeps violating Aikawa, telling him he's reached a historical record for weakness to women, which is disgusting. Suddenly, Mail also joins Aikawa with her friends. Kanami takes Euclid to play ball, and Haruna also joins them. As they have fun, Ceres enjoys her drink while roasting Aikawa, calling him a sexual predator. Ceres finishes her drink and sees that Euclid looks like she's having fun. Seems like Haruna and Ceres are more calamity to Aikawa than Euclid. Haruna throws a ball, hitting Aikawa straight in the face, and then asks him to hit it back properly. Suddenly, while Aikawa is casually walking and enjoying his drink, he sees an outrageous idol performing on stage. Aikawa also spots Orito in the audience, who tells him the idol is lovely Karara, dominating the internet. Aikawa realizes that Karara is none other than Sarasvati, who became a star in the blink of an eye with her mischievous looks and sexy appeal. Orito starts worshipping her with words. Suddenly, Ceres also appears behind Aikawa, asking if what she's seeing is reality or just a dream, because she can't believe she's seeing Sarasvati performing on stage. Ceres confronts Sarasvati, who claims to be lovely Karara in the light and Sarasvati in the shadows. Sarasvati starts cursing the audience, which the weird idiotic audience seems to like. Orito thinks Ceres is also debuting as an idol on stage. Ceres tells Sarasvati that suddenly becoming an idol is inappropriate, but Sarasvati challenges her to stop her with force. Ceres accepts the challenge and starts performing against Sarasvati. If Ceres wants Sarasvati to listen to her demands, she must defeat her first. In a whirlwind of chaos and unexpected antics, the stage was set for a showdown between the unlikeliest of performers. Ceres, determined to make a statement, shed her inhibitions along with her top, unveiling a side that even caught herself off guard. As jaws dropped, Sarasvati took the opportunity to ramp up her own appeal, utilizing every ounce of her seductive prowess to amass a legion of followers. But just as the stage seemed set for a showdown of sultry proportions, Haruna burst onto the scene, ready to make her mark as an idol. With Orito's dreams fulfilled and tears flowing freely, chaos erupted as Haruna's performance, albeit with a questionable song choice, skyrocketed her to stardom, much to everyone's bewilderment. So powerful was Haruna's showmanship that it caused Orito's poor computer to go up in smoke, only for Euclid to materialize with a desire to sing, hampered only by her own magic. Enter Dai-sensei, wielding a contraption of colossal proportions, proposing a magical exchange that would have Euclid's enchantments flowing through Aikawa for a limited time. As Haruna's grand finale left the audience reeling, the lights dimmed, and Euclid took center stage with a voice that could soothe even the wildest of crowds. But as Aikawa's head began to throb with inexplicable pain, little did he know that his unwitting participation was the key to restoring Euclid's magic. Haruna appears behind Euclid, taking her arm, and helps her continue her calm song. Ceres and Sarasvati start performing behind them. Aikawa starts thinking it would be great if all women around the world wore flashy outfits like Sarah's or Ceres. Suddenly, Aikawa's head starts hurting again, and his words turn into reality. All girls around the world change into bikini models. Ceres finds out it was Aikawa's doing and shoves her ankle in his face, burying him in the ground. The next day, Aikawa decides never to go to the pool again with his party since they cause an uproar. Everyone returns to their normal lives. Aikawa returns home and finds Euclid, Haruna, and Ceres waiting for him. The next day, Aikawa, talking about his little monologue mentioning how he is a zombie, which is pretty obvious, but people don't seem to notice it, just like how you didn't know your ex was cheating on you. He has been one of the chosen ones by Gaia. But the question is, what was he chosen for? Cause he doesn't seem to see any purpose in his life. Now what we meant by it being obvious is that the Aikawa that entered the classroom normally looks like a sun-dried tomato by the end of the lecture. His friend Chilio takes him to the infirmary while calling him lame like a true friend should. Aikawa wakes up in the nursing room and finds a young lad in a white frilly costume trying to reach for a bottle. Getting questioned by Aikawa makes her panic and run away like my father who went to get the milk. Aikawa gets home and tells the story to the three girls there. They call it his hallucination after being lonely for so long. He doesn't think it should be like that, but it seems like the girls call him a loser and expect him to romanticize with little girls too.
Weird. Buddy? You're weird.
Haruna wants Aikawa to talk about her when he is calling someone cute and intelligent, but Aikawa doesn't seem to consider it the truth. Euclid asks if it is a ghost, which makes Seraphim tell her that there is no scientific proof of the existence of ghosts. Aikawa decides to give them a reality check that being a zombie, necromancer, magic-led girl, and a vampire are also not scientifically explainable existences. Haruna doesn't care anymore and wants her 10th bowl of serving. She tells Aikawa that her powers seem to be coming back, which is good news to Seraphim since she is as disgusted with Aikawa's cross-dressing as the rest of us. He seems unamused by this remark though. The next day goes by normally at school. Normal if you include Aikawa drying up again and Tominori acting like his school wife by making lunch and staying late at school alone. Hiramatsu finds him alone when she is about to leave after school rep duties. Now, Aikawa makes the excuse of liking the evenings, but in reality, the morning hates him and the sun sucks all his hydration. After the sun sets, Aikawa trudges out of the corridor when he smells something off. He opens a lab and increases his power in case it's some monster, but is surprised to see the same cute girl he saw stealing alcohol before. She is very much tipsy right now too and vomits in surprise at seeing him. Aikawa seems to be convinced that it is a hallucination and proceeds to interact with Ms. Imagination. She keeps taking his name wrong and using beakers and burners of the lab to have a feast. She calls herself an adult but looks very much like a minor. Aikawa doesn't want a drink since he's a minor, so the girl offers him water. Our zombie boy starts acting tipsy on water and narrates his issue, wondering what he should do. He is told by her that he should act cool about being chosen by Gaia. He closes his eyes in shyness that he can talk to her about anything, but when he opens them, everything has disappeared except one of the tentacles she was eating. Aikawa assumes she is a fairy and leaves to tell his housemates about his imaginary friend. Talk about 4-year-old behavior. The next day, Chilio comes to Aikawa showing that a cross-dresser with a chainsaw was captured in the graveyard near school. Some of the classmates point out how he looks like Aikawa, making Aikawa look traumatized even more. Hiramatsu defends Aikawa while he feels apologetic towards her. Aikawa then walks out laughing nonchalantly about the impossibility of him being the creep. But once out of sight, he rushes like a little girl toward the lab where he meets Ms. Imagination. He opens the door and hugs the person on the stool, not even bothering to notice the difference in size. Yeah, eat brains but not of one Mr. Zombie. He is even getting touched by the man on the stool, but seems to be thinking that the big bulky hands touching him inappropriately belong to the cute girl he met. When did they put my uncle in this?
You're a victim.
It is only after hearing the voice that he backs up. The stranger with red eyes questions why he got attracted to Aikawa while trying to be near a magic-led girl. Aikawa confuses the man, now turned into a Megalo, by saying he is one, but the man seems to be interested in him either way. They are interrupted by Haruna, who appears there claiming she got all her power back and transforms into her attire. However, the transformation only occurs on her front while her entire back remains naked. Aikawa comes to her rescue by punching the Megalo in the face and out of the school building. The Megalo picks up Hiramatsu to threaten them, but Haruna doesn't have her powers yet, leaving no option for Aikawa but to transform with the excuse that they will erase the memories of the students later. The entire school is shocked that Aikawa is indeed the cross-dressing creep and starts live streaming him. He almost becomes a hero when he uses the chainsaw to destroy the monster and save Hiramatsu. He then shakes Mistletoe, wanting it to remove the memories of everyone, but his aggressive shaking doesn't give Mistletoe time to heal, breaking it into 2 pieces, simultaneously breaking the hopes of Aikawa to redeem his status of being lame and not a creep. The cherry on top is when the breaking of the chainsaw also removes his girly dress, leaving him stark stripped in front of the entire school as well as live on the internet. Way to be a hero. Haruna is currently cursing Aikawa for breaking her Mistletoe while Aikawa is being a fool stock for everyone as he leaves the police station. Getting home, Aikawa is even more traumatized when his inappropriate pictures and videos have not only been posted online, but have also gotten numerous views. Poor guy feels dreadful for the next school day and opens the classroom door expecting judgmental looks and remarks, but what he finds is his fellows surrounding him and praises about how he has become a cross-dressing hero. Aikawa is ignored by Chilio while the weird praises by others make him uncomfortable enough to run away again to Ms. Imagination. Her first instinct, like always, is to get his name wrong and then ask him to have a drink. Eventually, with hiccups, she lets him stand back up when life puts him down. Also, that shame lasts for some 3 billion days, ending it with a 75. Einstein Aikawa only hears the 75 and proceeds in a better mood. It, however, goes down the drain seeing students from other classes gathered there too. He is about to turn when Tominori meets him. Poor girl's name is Yuki, so let's stick to that. She invites him to look at stars in the mountains, which Aikawa agrees to feel better. At home, he is made to realize that the two are going on a date alone in the mountains, so the 3 girls in the house tag along too. Yuki is a little disappointed that he isn't alone but goes along with it. On the way, Haruna goes to pee when Seraphim praises Yuki for inviting Aikawa and trying to make him feel better. She feels embarrassed and tries to act casually. Aikawa and Yuki then go to find Haruna, who has been gone for a while. On their way, Aikawa also thanks Yuki while Yuki nervously tries to call him by his first name, Ayumu. However, Haruna comes running towards them talking about some bees. Some is an understatement for the amount of bees following her.
No, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah!
Haruna rushes and hugs Aikawa, or what we assumed for a while. Hugging him, she picks him up and throws him towards the bees to, well, save herself. Cause mama ain't raised no you know what. Ironically, it is a bear that saves Aikawa by being stung all over as the bees fear away. However, now Aikawa and Yuki are running from the bear. Later, Haruna makes friends with the bear. Their banter makes Yuki feel a little jealous, but the girls make her happy by telling her they are not there for Aikawa but to spend time with her. The rest of the trip goes on happily with a mesmerizing view of stars for the 4 of them. On the way back, Aikawa welcomes his new personality, which he feels after the trip. Well, bye-bye new personality, cause Mr. Hero Crossdresser is busy giving everyone autographs in the school. He is standing on the stairs exhausted when Saraswati appears there giving him a note asking him to soak it in the water since the page is initially empty. Wetting it, Aikawa is shocked to see Saraswati confessing her feelings for him. Aikawa finally gets a hold of Chilio, who tells him that he needs time to adapt, that his best friend was a cross-dressing pervert. He even leaves without responding if they're gonna be friends anymore or not. Sarasvati appears behind him telling him she will love him forever and will never mistreat him. Not forgetting to mention how she throws demeaning words like stupid and dumb whenever calling Aikawa darling. Going him, Aikawa's trauma increases tenfolds when his bottom pictures have been posted online. Who's doing that? Who else than stalker Sarasvati, who has been silently watching him all the time and weirdly admiring him. Seraphim questions Sarasvati's intentions with Aikawa and what she finds attractive about that loser. Sarasvati is honest as ever in calling it a bottom love. Not because Aikawa is a sore loser, but because she is solely interested in his bottom. So the next day, Seraphim keeps on noticing Aikawa's bottom and wondering what Sarasvati finds attractive in it. Meanwhile, Haruna is wondering how to fix her mistletoe. Aikawa confirms that indeed fixing mistletoe takes a heavy procedure and Viri. Hence, Haruna decides that she is going to fix it on her own. Aikawa leaves for school while Haruna and Euclid harass the mistletoe. He comes back from his day and finds the two of them still working with devotion on it. At an odd hour, Aikawa wakes up and finds the mistletoe shining and fine and decides to finally erase the memories of the people. Seraphim stands watching him only to get traumatized yet again, because as he starts chanting to remove memories after turning into a magic-clad girl, the mistletoe breaks once again, leaving Aikawa stark naked yet again. At this point, he can even wander naked and it'd be nothing surprising for the community. On the other hand, Yuki is seen on the ground apologizing to Sarasvati, who calls her a disgrace as a vampire ninja. Chilio comes to Aikawa talking all deep as if he is doing something huge by trying to accept Aikawa as who he is. Anderson seems to be turning on Chilio by mentioning how this is a journey of converting from an ugly caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly for Chilio.
I am not gay.
All we can say is that they are being extra dramatic about it all. Aikawa is once again ranting to Ms. Fairy, who is currently talking about having the courage to push the bad beer aside if he wants to drink the good stuff. Aikawa figures that he lacks courage, but it seems like Ms. Fairy is always tipsy and blabbering while Aikawa motivates himself randomly. Haruna is finally walking by filling out the form to get her mistletoe repaired when she feels like she cannot breathe anymore. She notices Yuki Voodoo dancing near her and asks her why. Yuki tells her that she is going to be a backup dancer at Sarasvati's concert and is trying to learn to dance. Haruna decides to teach her, so after a while, when Aikawa passes by the place, he also feels like he cannot breathe anymore and notices many people lying unconscious around. Turns out, Haruna also thinks she is dancing properly, but it is voodoo dancing. Sarasvati appears there while stalking Aikawa and threatens Yuki to send her home if she doesn't do well. Aikawa decides to teach them how to dance, but the whole night goes with them feeling breathless since the two just cannot grasp how to dance. The next day, he finally manages to teach the two something, but when they get on stage, they are doing the same thing again. However, things go a little well as the entire crowd is now forced to dance the same way under the black magic influence of their dance. A dark concert quite literally. Wanting some therapeutic alone time, Aikawa decides to go for the best hobby. Well, best if you're an 8-year-old. Aikawa is currently playing with anime figurines, which makes Seraphim bully him.
Did you just call me a nerd?
Haruna joining him excitedly and playing with the best figurine results in the figurine breaking into pieces, leaving both the not-so-adults crying about it. Chilio decides to give him a better way to get his mind distracted and takes Aikawa to a costume restaurant. A thoughtful logic is that if Aikawa sees women dressed in costumes, he won't want to cross-dress anymore. We all know Chilio just wanted to be there. Things get interesting when the restaurant owner turns out to be Sarasvati. She is playing the role of a maid and calling every customer master, but also throwing demeaning remarks as if she is the master. One can never understand this woman, but what we do understand is that it gets customers like Chilio going. Making them sit, she insults them while asking them to order and leave. They have already seen Anderson being a regular there, but what Aikawa wouldn't have expected was the presence of Seraphim and Yuki there too. Seraphim is a natural at being mean, but Yuki seems to be having trouble insulting the customers. Chilio tells Aikawa that they get to have a huge discount if they manage to make 5 of the waitresses fall for them. Sarasvati is also excited to have them take on this challenge since she wants to make Aikawa pay with his body if he loses. She brings out her 5 best to compete with these 2 losers. The first one is Yuki. With a little kindness from Aikawa, Yuki feels comfortable around him and isn't mean anymore, making them win easily. Not to mention, Anderson being the unofficial commentator to this event. The next one is Haruna. Yes, she works there too. Haruna is all mean to both of them. While Chilio is only getting excited, all Aikawa needs to do is touch Yuki, who brought them water, and bam, Haruna is jealous and has lost. The third contestant is Seraphim. Chilio touches her without her consent, so he is currently unconscious with his head in the ceiling. Aikawa thinks for a while and then asks Seraphim to cook a meal for him, knowing damn well that she isn't the best cook. The steak she presents makes him sick, but he still asks for seconds. Seraphim feels sorry for him and tells him to not eat if he doesn't want to. This show of concern makes him win the third round too. The fourth one is Euclid. Yep, all the special ones work there. Aikawa doesn't know how to approach this one, but he doesn't even have to do anything and has won due to the secret feelings Euclid carries for him. Aikawa is excited for the final stage with Sarasvati, but turns out she isn't the final contestant. It is Mahara Kanami, the coldest girl in school. Aikawa is sure he cannot win against her easily when Chulio finally wakes up motivating that they are going to win. As if he was any useful before is what everyone thought it. But a thoughtless I love you to Mahara gets Mahara flustered at the spontaneity of it, making the guys win through the challenge. Sarasvati decides to not wash her hands, which she shakes with Aikawa showing her true, deep obsession with him. Seraphim is going to her village, so she tells Haruna to take care that Euclid is safe from perverted Aikawa like she is her big sister. Haruna seems to be liking the sense of being a big sister and let's collectively ignore the amount of confidence and sense of safety they feel from Aikawa. Aikawa seems to be realizing that Seraphim used to do a lot around the house since they were short of groceries and there were many chores to do. Aikawa sits with Euclid, who is peeling oranges, not leaving any white bits, and eating them. However, Euclid falls sick after a while, which makes the two of them worry about her. While Haruna is out to get something for Euclid, Aikawa thinks he should change her clothes since they are all sweaty. Well, we highly doubt this is entirely out of his goodwill. Aikawa shows self-control by wearing gloves and a blindfold, but the dumbass starts touching the humidifier, assuming it's Euclid's armor. However, when Euclid wakes up, she allows him to do so, but Haruna catching Aikawa making weird noises while touching Euclid is enough for her to slam him in the wall. A good portrait of Aikawa can be seen imprinted on the wall now. A bloody one though. Haruna then decides to make some gruel for Euclid while Aikawa calls Anderson to have some help with denizens going to a human doctor. Anderson tells him it is of no use and tells him to do some yodeling to make her feel better. He gets Aikawa to dance weirdly around Euclid with only his underwear on, so it's no wonder that he gets smashed again by Haruna. But thankfully Anderson accepts his mischief, saving Aikawa from getting slaughtered. Later, the two of them care sweetly for Euclid. At night, Euclid comes to Aikawa wanting to sleep with him, which gets him very awkward in the bed with her. However, thankfully Aikawa doesn't behave weirdly. Haruna comes into his room asking about Euclid's whereabouts since she got him some roots as medicine and some gloves to keep warm. Aikawa hides Euclid in the blankets in fear while praising Haruna for taking care of Euclid. When Haruna sees Euclid with Aikawa, she doesn't get mad like before and understands that she needs someone by her side when she is suffering. It is funny though that later Aikawa sleeps on the cold floor while Haruna sleeps hugging Euclid on his bed. The next day, Anderson comes to visit Euclid and notices the orange marks on her neck. It turns out that denizens are allergic to white bits of oranges, and since she ate so many the previous day, she must have swallowed some of it. The remedies to it are heard rumors like drinking tea while whirling the cup around, putting kelp on her head and getting punched in the belly, bathing in soy flour, putting CDs in armpits, rapping in the curtain, and binging on cola. They all sound like myths, but somehow one of those might have worked since you got better afterward. However, Haruna seems to be getting red and dizzy now. Aikawa realizes that Haruna was also not feeling well to begin with, but acted tough to not have anyone worry. Either that or she just likes to pretend she is strong, because when Seraphim enters the room, Haruna is resisting lying down while Aikawa is forcing her to do so. The image in Sira's eyes is enough to make her smack him to the wall, creating yet another bloody portrait of our guy. I honestly think he was born to be bullied. The school's cultural fest is around, and for some reason, Haruna is around the school too. She has a great influence on the students, so when suggesting ideas for the cultural fest, everyone only agrees to Aikawa's Monster Cafe idea because Haruna also agreed to it. On his way, Aikawa finds a long-haired dude currently throwing up red stuff, so he rushes to ask if he is fine. The guy acts cheerful, getting another round of vomit since he isn't allowed to do that. He hands Aikawa a ring, telling him he'd know its value when the time comes. This results in another pool of red since he isn't allowed to say cool lines either. The guy then leaves, throwing up red back. Next, everyone starts preparing the decorations and costumes for the festival, and Aikawa also feels heard and accepted around, which makes him visit his drunken fairy and tell her about his life, becoming lively again. He later stays late with Hiramatsu in trying to finish the board for their cafe. The tension between the two during the entire day and the walk back home makes him feel even better about his school life, but the mention from random strangers about the crossdresser guy getting a girlfriend kills his mood. Things seem to be in favor since his mood is refreshed once again when on his return back home. The grand return of Mistletoe also occurs. Transforming into the magic-led girl, he wanders around happily for a while before finally clearing his name by erasing everyone's memories. The next day, Aikawa is over the moon about finally starting fresh, but the freshness goes down the drain when he is given the role of Dracula's bride in the Monster Cafe, and sent around the school to advertise. Euclid is right by calling it an infinite loop, and we all love to have this loop occur. Yuki takes Aikawa towards a confession spot since she got a letter to be there but doesn't want to go alone. She is in her delusions of wondering if Aikawa is about to confess and backs up a little too fast in panic. This makes her hit a tree hard, which results in something huge falling on her head. This activates a self-destruction mode in her body, making Aikawa panic. The weird long-haired dude appears again, trying to act cool but having blood ooze out of his mouth after every statement. He asks Aikawa to make her wear the ring to control and seal away her magical powers. Now imagine an already delusional girl waking up in the arms of her crush with a ring in her hand. She doesn't hear any explanation, just stamps up that she has already been his school wife, and runs away assuming he is going to kiss her next. Oh, to be as delusional as Yuki. Haruna rushes to Aikawa, reporting him about a Megalo. The Megalo is currently aroused and asking every girl their cup size. Why are all these Megalo always horny remains a huge mystery. Haruna built a magic absorption device to get some mana back from Euclid, so she transforms along with Aikawa to collectively attack the Megalo and get rid of it easily. Let's not fail to highlight that the aroused Megalo was more turned on by Aikawa than Haruna. Haruna and Euclid explain to Aikawa and Sira that Haruna absorbed Euclid's mana and got her powers back, but at the expense of it. She feels immense pain whenever she speaks or feels a stronger emotion. And now, Euclid can speak freely since she doesn't feel that pain anymore. This means that Haruna is the one who has to wear the armor now. The next day, Aikawa finds Yuki still wearing the ring but decides not to tell her the real reason. This, however, puts him in a tough spot since Euclid and Haruna also hear the commotion. Euclid then asks if Aikawa isn't going to fantasize about her today, embarrassing the poor guy but also forcing him to do so. Feeling jealous, Haruna asks him to do so for her too, but also threatens him to not think of anything dirty. Aikawa seems to be doing what he is told like a good submissive peasant. Annoyed for not being able to speak, Haruna throws her mana-absorbing device away. Later in the evening, Sarasvati makes Sira dress up too, which gets Chilio a little too excited. Yuki is flashing her ring around when Kurisu-sensei appears there, taking the ring from her since students aren't allowed to wear jewelry. Aikawa visits the lab to see his Ms. Fairy but doesn't find her there, so he assumes that his being happy in school these days has cleared him of his hallucinations. At the bonfire, Aikawa is finally ready to have his moment of getting a dance with a girl, but when he opens his eyes, he is standing holding hands with Kurisu-sensei. Kurisu randomly starts narrating Aikawa's entire life situation, and then transforms into a magic-led girl. Not just any girl, but his Ms. Fairy. Ignoring all odds, he gets excited to see her. Ms. Fairy is the strongest magic-led girl that Haruna talks about, named Chris. Chris had been cursed to convert into this boring old man and could only momentarily transform whenever she was tipsy. It was only when the mana-absorbing device and the ring came into her hands that she lifted off the curse. By now, Aikawa has also realized that everyone can see her, and she was never his imagination. Chris then decides to have some fun, so she forces all the students to sit on benches, restricting them from moving. She then narrates how bad she feels about her boring old manly face and starts asking random questions and makes the students shoot out like rockets whenever they act like hypocrites, or their hearts break, or they feel strong emotions. Aikawa and Chilio are the only ones left when Chris makes Sira appear in front of Chilio and control her body to make her move in a way to turn on Chilio. Being the only one left, Aikawa gets mad at Chris and asks her to give Haruna her powers back and not mess with everyone. Chris frees Aikawa, asking him to force it away from her then. Aikawa tries to attack Chris by increasing his power 400 times, but Chris defends herself with her wine bottle. Chris then uses alcohol droplets to defeat Aikawa and leaves after telling him that she truly enjoyed her time with him and used to look forward to it. After she leaves, everyone judges Aikawa, calling him a pervert for being into little girls, and they aren't any wrong though. Ariel, in Viri, is also alarmed about Chris having her curse lifted, when Kyoko, who has been trapped by her for a long, tells her that she knows what Chris's weakness is. Ariel tells Aikawa that Kyoko knows what Chris's weakness is, which gives jitters to Aikawa. He asks Ariel to ask Kyoko, but that wouldn't be needed since the scary woman is standing right behind him. Kyoko sure knows how to split personalities, as she keeps switching between a cute and horrifying face while talking to everyone. They eventually decide that she will tell them Chris's weakness if they manage to make her feel happy, since prison bored her a lot. Aikawa agrees to it and relieves Sira to not worry about him, as he can handle himself with Kyoko. Remembering that he did manage to defeat her, Sira is relieved. At night, Kyoko tries to mess with Aikawa, but despite his perverted nature, he seems to have control of himself in front of Kyoko and doesn't fall for her antics. He tells her they should take it outside. The first thing they do outside is drink coffee, and then Kyoko enjoys her time on the swings. Aikawa asks her what she wants, so she tells him that she wants to have a mixer party. Hence the next day, Geek Aikawa is inviting his friends to a mixer party and goofing about how they are only young once and should live it to the fullest. Shoujo and Hiramatsu are weirded out by him while Kyoko is completely overjoyed by his misery. He feels shrunken by the stress in the evening, but Haruna seems to be leaving everything to Aikawa. The next day, Aikawa is shrunken up to the thickness of a paper while pretending to be someone he is not, while Kyoko is enjoying the sun-dried tomato he has become. Sira confronts Kyoko that her only intention was to get Aikawa in trouble and not some mixer party. Kyoko tells her she wants both of the things and mocks Sira for sticking around because she likes Aikawa. The silence in return is enough to show that it is true. Kyoko silently walks away feeling envious of how many people love Aikawa. At the mixer party, most of the guests are girls who are currently laughing and cringing at the transparent shirts Chilio and Aikawa are wearing. They thought it would look sexy, but maybe they assumed embarrassment was sexy. During the party, they decide to play the king's game, and no matter what number the king calls, one of them turns out to be Aikawa. First, he has to hug Hiramatsu and later he has to kiss Kyoko. Kyoko seems to be having the time of her life seeing Aikawa all embarrassed and flustered, but when she is about to kiss him, the door is upon revealing Ariel there to attend the party too. As everyone is dancing around, Kyoko questions why Ariel is there and if she is keeping an eye on her, but Ariel tells her the reason is different. Kyoko is tempted to attack Ariel, so Aikawa drags her away, telling her they should take it outside. Euclid and Ariel worried Sira that he will be fine. Aikawa takes here where he defeats Kyoko and asks her to do whatever she wants to make her happy, and he won't resist it. Kyoko transforms and takes her sword to pierce through his body, but weirdly enough, she doesn't let go. Kyoko hugs him like that and tells him that she loves him, but couldn't realize it. She confesses that she had fun at the party, but her punishment is that she will be erased from everyone's memories so no one remembers her. Aikawa seems to be understanding as he tells her that he will remember her even after hundreds of years since he is already dead. Kyoko disappears feeling content with that. Not to mention she doesn't give the information that was part of a deal. But it seems like Aikawa is confident about receiving it later. But what he receives is the word tickles. Aikawa calls Ariel, who tells him that Chris is extremely ticklish, but it is understandable for him to be frustrated that this won't be able to defeat her. Ariel then tells him that the Queen of Viri, the King of Night, and the denizen of the underworld currently live in his world. Aikawa approaches Euclid with this question, and it turns out that the strong girl is Euclid's close friend, Nigilria. During this conversation, Aikawa gets to know that Underworld and Viri are rivals, and Haruna and Euclid have been living together peacefully. The next evening, Aikawa is getting some coffee near the vending machine when Sarasvati approaches him in a more lively fashion than previously. She invites him to her concert, so he promises her that he will visit her. This makes him see Sarasvati genuinely happy for once. Aikawa then visits Nigilria, or Nin, who is currently so sleep-deprived that she keeps dozing off in the middle of walking, showering, or even having conversations. She flat refuses to help Aikawa, but then decides to do so if he helps her finish her manga. Aikawa invites Haruna to help him out, but she sees him under Nin, who was just in her towel at that time. This got the poor boy smacked even without doing anything bad, because Haruna snitched to Seraphim while crying, and the three girls got there to get him on track. The poor guy wasn't even at fault since Nin fell asleep and quite literally fell. Euclid notices that the manga is a story about her life, so Nin tells her that she is trying to give her a happy ending. Euclid expresses that she wants to see that happy ending, but Sira's attempt of cooking and Haruna's ADHD messes the work and delays it. However, seeing her sad, the three along with Nin decide to work hard and finish the story so Euclid can see it. They all work tirelessly through the night, and the next day when Nin recalls that Aikawa had a commitment, and he needs to get there, Aikawa rushes and manages to reach the concert before the last performance. Sarasvati feels even more energetic upon seeing him and forgives him for being late even before he can explain. She shows understanding that he has his issues and keeps calling him her darling because according to her they are already going out. What a lucky man Aikawa is to have all these girls falling for him. What's shocking at the end is to see Nin and Chris getting tipsy at a random cart in the middle of the night, where Nin tells Chris that Aikawa is doing fine and how she should be careful since people are onto her, and the world thinks they are enemies. After the disappearance of Kurisu-sensei, Ariel takes over as the temporary teacher and tells Aikawa that he needs to pass a test to check whether he can be a real magic-lad girl to the fullest or not. If he fails, his entire memories will be wiped off and Haruna will have to go back home. The next day, Haruna also appears as a chemistry teacher. It is indeed a question about what the hiring criteria for this school are. Haruna starts telling everyone how to make egg fried rice, but the amount of philosopher's stone she adds to it converts it into slime. Not simply a small amount of slime, but an excessive amount of perverted slime that dissolves away everyone's clothes except the underwear. The boys are having fun till Ariel asks Aikawa what he will do now. Aikawa proceeds to enter the slime and save some girls before he reaches Haruna. However, Haruna and Aikawa are swollen enough by slime that Ariel has to step forward and clear it out. She then enters the room and gives a very sweet smile to the two of them before using her magic to wipe out Aikawa's memories. Later, Aikawa has no idea what all these people are doing at his house. Euclid tells him he has amnesia while Ariel tells Haruna they should leave. Aikawa stops them, telling Ariel that Haruna can stay since it feels like she belongs there. This gets Haruna emotional, so she begs Ariel to give them a second chance. Ariel is sweet enough to agree. The three of them are made to enter Aikawa's subconscious on a journey to find his lost part. The zero memory Aikawa also tags along to them as they reach his head's boss region. It is a dramatic haul, embarrassing for the new Aikawa, but then the alternate personalities of Aikawa like Lust and some others are revealed with the weirdest names and dialogues. The girls are positive that this indeed is Aikawa, while the new Aikawa wants to wipe out his existence at the sight and sound of his old self. Haruna defeats them with a single blow, so they proceed to reach his true dreams. The door they open leads them to Aikawa's room, but there they don't find their normal friend. Instead, it is Belphegor, the demon of sloth. This guy seems to have no motivation to get back and is holding grudges for how much trouble all these people have put him through. He doesn't want to go through the worry that everyone has put him through and decides to become the new Aikawa. Waking up, Aikawa greets Ariel in a normal tone and goes to change. He comes back into the weird outfit and says he is the alternate Aikawa from now on. He then casually leaves for school. The other girls wake up too and worry about him going out in that ugly outfit. The classmates are also concerned about his look, and his not so deep blabbering makes Hiramatsu sweetly offer to take him to the nurse's office. Ariel comes in asking everyone to ignore Aikawa, who isn't feeling well, but Haruna appears there in anger, ready to fight him. Aikawa mocks that she doesn't have her powers, so Euclid steps forward ready to fight him. Aikawa questions if she doesn't know his feelings for her, which is shocking for everyone that he confessed to her. Haruna brings him out to the school grounds, making it a full circle of fate. Euclid transforms into a magic-clad girl and tries to fight Aikawa while simultaneously wanting to tell him that he isn't the guy she fell in love with. Euclid distracts Aikawa before grabbing the chainsaw and piercing it through his body while simultaneously showing him the old notes in which she talked to him. This makes him clutch his head in confusion when Haruna and Euclid both dig the chainsaw deeper into his body, wanting the old self to come out. Eventually, Aikawa gets his old self back, but Haruna punishes him to unconsciousness. Waking up, the girls expect him to say something nice, but what he asks for is to bring his lower half back, because currently Haruna has cut him to 2 pieces. The girls chuckle at his hopelessness while Ariel considers this test a pass. Chris is right when she calls Aikawa the luckiest to have the best people care for him, and even though his housemates bully him a lot, their love for him remains pretty vivid. Now on to the next day, where Haruna starts a festival named as Haruna Festival. The instructions are pretty simple. The person who hits the paper ball would be the winner, and the winner will get his hands on a Nyan voucher, which allows them to spend a whole day with Euclid and Seraphim, which most people would have given anything to participate in the game, with a chance to finally have some female interaction. Tominori, Ayumu and Orito are participating too, and Orito's intentions are enough to scare anyone away. Anyhow, when the festival started, all the men struggled to be faster than everyone else to reach the Nyan ticket. So first, they gotta do the speed eating, but it seems like Sarah mixed something in the food which causes it to explode. As soon as Orito and Ayumu take the first bite, the whole thing explodes, and Orito, a dying soldier, still takes a chance to somehow hold Ayumu's ungrown breasts, but she slaps him away. Tomo, with a spirit to save Yu and Sira, leaves the two of them on the ground. A flashback hits Tomo's mind, where Yu explains why she wants to make herself become the prize. The reason was, Haruna looked lonely and sad. Thinking about that, Tomo runs to somehow save Yu and sees that to reach the place where Yu is, he has to climb a super smooth staircase, and every man is slipping down on it. Tomo tries to crawl upstairs, but Sira keeps him away because she can't have unholy things done to her. She throws in a bunch of logs and then uses her superpower so he slips down, even though his only intention is to save Yu from other men. Suddenly, he sees that Orito has recovered from his injuries quickly and tries to make his way to Yu and Sira, but nobody has a chance against a mommy with huge you-know-what with incredible superpowers. What gives Tomo more power is the thought of Nyan with Yu, which serves as the primary purpose for him to save Yu now. After all, he is a man. So, Orito and Tomo spot Kokshidama, and they both hold it together and run towards Sira, which reverses her superpower, and they reach the top. With Orito getting the victory, everyone was pretty shocked, but that wasn't for long because he couldn't handle Sira's demonic powers. Later on, Sira forces Aikawa to eat what she made, and he gets an electric shock as he eats that as if he ate Shin's cooking. Then, Aikawa gets handed over a recipe that has passed down the vampire ninja's village. But Aikawa, being an absolute genius not knowing the consequences of his actions, lends it to Maelstrom, which irritates off Sira, and it really makes her balloons bounce like a jumping castle. In order to get the recipe back, Sira, Aikawa, and Iyu set off to steal back the recipe. So, Sira makes Aikawa climb the rope and sneak into the apartment. Well, the security system is sort of fruity. It throws bamboo sticks right in the bum of Aikawa, and well, honestly I don't even know what to say about this. When they reach the apartment, they begin looking for the scroll, and Haruna has it hidden in her flat as hell cherries. So, now he has to take it out in one go. Honestly, I wouldn't have known what to grab, either the cherries or the scroll. After all, a recipe can't be that important, right? But as soon as Aikawa pulls out the scroll from her shirt, he turns back in excitement and his pants tear from behind, showing his shiny little bum. That noise wakes up Haruna and she goes into an attack mode. Not knowing who that was, Sira and Iyu just look at the show Haruna and Maelstrom are putting up. And well, his bum gets hit once again as Maelstrom puts bamboo up his bum and he moans. What are we even watching? The next day, Sira tries out the recipe and it tastes horrible. It was definitely not worth Aikawa taking some bamboo all up his bum. The school begins, and there comes up a card tournament and Orito seems pretty hyped up for it. But his gaze falls mostly on the girls Victoria's secrets, and that becomes his downfall. Aikawa, Hiramatsu, and Yuki end up in the finals, and Aikawa is no better than Orito and loses the card game because Hiramatsu's milkers were sort of distracting. He wonders why she did it, and she explains later on that Yuki really wanted the fountain pen, and she had only done it for her. He thinks she is so kind, but she reminds her of that day where he was kind to a puppy and helped the puppy not get soaked in water when it was raining. Since that day, she has always looked up to him. Meanwhile, Sarasafti only saw in him his shiny bum. Ayumu Aikawa, a zombie in Musou Shoujo, the protagonist of the series, narrates his absurd life. Basically, Aikawa Ayumu fights to recover Haruna's magical powers stolen by Chris and will face trials thrown at him by Gaia in order to determine his value. In the morning, he's sitting with Haruna, the self-proclaimed genius Musou Shoujo, Sira, the vampire ninja, and Iyu, the mute necromancer. Iyu, as usual, communicates through her notepad because maybe God had to nerf her down by making her mute or something. As they are enjoying ice cream, he's in a flea market where Haruna and all the people are selling items of all kinds. In the flea market, Haruna is trying to sell her items and trying to beat Orito as she doesn't like him. On the other hand, Orito, who is Ayumu's best friend and a second-hand embarrassment, is selling weird magazines thinking they would sell out early as he wants to give competition to Haruna. Ayumu strolled through the bustling market until he came across Hiramatsu, a sweet and timid girl from his class, tending a stall brimming with beautifully arranged confections. They both tried to greet each other. Before Ayumu can reply, Orito barges in, attempting to charm Hiramatsu because he is no better. After all, he thinks through the sad thing in his pants too. She responds with icy indifference, leaving Ayumu stifling a laugh. On the other stall, Tominori is selling ramen and calls Ayumu to taste the egg rolls she made and tells him that Master meaning Haruna taught her to make them and gives him a poster of Kira Kira shop saying it has 10% off on all items for all the customers who try Ninja Ramen. When Ayumu went to the Kira Kira shop, pictures of Kurara, a popular idol, were being sold and most of them were not clothed and all the people were going crazy to buy them, leaving Ayumu to wonder what a great marketing strategy that is. After a few hours, in the evening Haruna is still trying to sell her items but she can't sell them. Frustrated, she drops her prices to absurdly low. Ayumu notices the other vendors, particularly the girls, attracting customers with their charm and revealing outfits. But when Ayumu tried telling her this, Sira and Hiramatsu brought customers for Haruna, which made Haruna emotional. Roaming around, when Ayumu gets fed up, he drank juice which was on the stall of Haruna while Haruna was searching for an item she missed or forgot where she put it. When he drank it, it tasted weird and all of a sudden his body started disappearing. At night, when Ayumu completely disappears, it turns out he drank Haruna's invisibility potion. Haruna gets furious at Ayumu for drinking her potion as it was going to be sold out for a lot of money. Iyu tells this by writing on her pad that Haruna was thinking of selling it as it would be sold out for a lot of money, but Sira stopped her. However, Haruna lost her philosopher's stone-like thing and Sira told everyone if it is not kept in a sacred box it will start creating magic tools on its own. Iyu said it would be dangerous and all of them should start finding it and that some young girl from school sold it to Haruna. Haruna remembers there will be weight competition in school, and as Ayumu is invisible, he can easily go there and observe who is wearing or having the pendant, as they did not have enough time. When Ayumu suggests inhabiting Sira's body temporarily to search for clues, she slaps him across the face, calling him a pervert. The next morning, Ayumu heads to school, still invisible. Since the invisibility has a time limit, he has to solve the mystery quickly. His first stop is the girls' area, where he hopes to observe their belongings for any sign of the stone. From the line, a girl naming Sarah's comes out and catch Ayumu, as she has superpowers to see invisible, but he tells her the situation of the philosopher's stone-like thing disappearing, and it would be dangerous if they won't find it, as once a slime stuff appeared in their class because of them pendant. After hearing his side of the story, she agrees to help him. After a few moments, he starts getting visible and runs to hide himself as he is in school, and nothing on. When he gets back to his normal being, he hides himself, but Haramtsu sees him hiding and removes the tracksuit to give it to Ayumu to cover himself. He found the exact pendant he was searching for. Haramtsu tells him that Haruna sold it to her for 20 yen. She keeps asking him why is he raw in school, but he didn't tell her anything and went back to his house to tell the whole scenario to Haruna, Sira and Iyu. Later on, Ayumu, Haruna, Sira and Iyu were sitting together discussing all of the things that happened. As they sat together, Ayumu called Haruna irresponsible and absent-minded for not remembering to whom she sold that thing, but Haruna tried to defend her actions, though no one seemed convinced. While talking, reluctantly, Ayumu drinks the juice placed on the table. Moments later, he feels a strange tingling sensation, which was Haruna's new invention. The whole scenario ends with suspense to make the audience wonder what happens next and how Ayumu's life changes while trying to fight for Haruna's magic abilities.